Chapter 1. The Void Calls. In the year 2147, on the sprawling megacity of New Horizon, perched on the edge of the Pacific Rim where the ocean met the endless sprawl of sin-steel towers, Alara Voss lived a life tethered to the ground. The city was a monument to humanity's defiance against the stars, a glittering labyrinth of holographic billboards, automated drones humming like eternal bees, and vertical farms that stretched into the smog-choked sky. But Alara had always feared the void above. It was a thief, she believed, one that had stolen her husband first, and now threatened to claim everything else. Alara was 42, with hair the color of faded copper wires and eyes that held the weary depth of someone who'd stared too long into the abyss of loss. She worked as a neural technician at the Orion Institute, a government-funded hub where minds were mapped and memories preserved in crystalline data vaults. It was ironic, really. Her job was to safeguard the essence of humanity against the erosion of time, yet she couldn't protect her own family from the pull of exploration. Her daughter, Mira, had been different. At 21, Mira was a blaze of curiosity, with her father's reckless spirit and a mind sharp as a quantum blade. She had joined the Stellar Outreach Program, a bold initiative to colonize the outer reaches of the solar system. "Mom," Mira had said the night before her departure, her voice echoing in their cramped apartment overlooking the neon-lit bay, "the stars aren't empty. They're full of answers. Dad would have wanted this." Alara's husband, Harlan, had been a pilot on the first Mars Titan relay. He'd vanished in a solar flare storm 15 years ago, his ship reduced to cosmic dust. No body, no closure, just a plaque in the Institute's Hall of Remembrance. Alara had raised Mira alone, pouring her grief into nurturing her daughter's dreams, even as those dreams mirrored the ones that had killed Harlan. The launch day was etched in Alara's memory like a scar. The massive shuttle, the Ether's Reach, lifted off from the equatorial pad amid cheers and fireworks. Mira waved from the viewport, her face a pixelated smile on the live feed. "I'll be back in 2 years, Mom, with stories that'll make your tech seem obsolete." But the Ether's Reach never returned. 6 months into the mission, contact was lost. The official report cited a gravitational anomaly near Jupiter's moons, a wormhole, perhaps, or a black hole's whisper. The crew of 12, including Mira, was presumed dead. Alara received a condolence holo from the program director, a cold avatar reciting platitudes about sacrifice for humanity's future. For Alara, the world dimmed. She threw herself into her work, mapping the neural patterns of the bereaved, preserving echoes of loved ones in virtual simulations. But at night, in the silence of her apartment, she would stare at the starfield projection on her ceiling, whispering Myra's name like a prayer to indifferent gods. Years passed, 5 to be exact. New Horizon evolved, with AI overseers optimizing traffic and weather, but Alara remained frozen in her grief. She avoided the stars, opting for ground-level transports and windowless labs. Friends urged her to move on, to date, to adopt a synth child. But how could she? Mira was out there, lost but not forgotten. Then, one rain-slicked evening in 2152, as Alara trudged home through the undercity markets where vendors hawked glowing augmentations and black market memories, her comm link buzzed. It was an encrypted signal from the Orion Institute's secure line. "Ms. Voss," the voice said, belonging to Dr. Lena Kaur, her superior. "You need to come in immediately. It's about Mira." Alara's heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" "Myra's gone." "Not anymore," Dr. Kaur replied, her tone laced with urgency. "A ship just docked at the orbital station. It's from the Ether's Reach. And there's a survivor, a human, who claims to have brought her back." Chapter 2. The Return. The orbital elevator ride felt eternal, a glass capsule ascending through layers of atmosphere into the cold embrace of space. Alara clutched the railing, her knuckles white, as Earth shrank below her. She hadn't been off-planet since Harlan's funeral service on Luna. Now, the stars mocked her from the void. Dr. Kaur met her at the docking bay, a sterile expanse of white panels and humming quarantine fields. Kaur was a wiry woman in her 50s, with augmented eyes that glowed faintly blue. Alara, brace yourself. This isn't straightforward. They entered a debriefing room where holographic displays flickered with data streams. At the center sat a man, tall, gaunt, with skin pale as lunar dust and hair cropped short. He wore a tattered flight suit emblazoned with the Ether's Reach insignia. His eyes, dark and haunted, locked onto Alara as she approached. "I'm Captain Elias Thorne," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "I was the mission commander." Alara's breath caught. Thorne had been listed as deceased, along with the rest. "Where's Mira? You said you brought her back." Thorne nodded slowly. "I did. But she's not the same. None of us were, after what happened." He began his tale, and as he spoke, the room seemed to shrink, the weight of his words pressing down like increased gravity. The Ether's Reach had been en route to Titan when they encountered the anomaly, a rift in space-time, shimmering like a mirage. It pulled them in, spitting them out light years away in an uncharted system orbiting a binary star. They called it the Veil Nebula, a cluster of worlds teeming with alien life. The inhabitants, Thorne explained, were the Aelurians, ethereal beings of light and energy, evolved beyond physical form. They communicated through neural links, sharing thoughts like data packets. Our ship crashed on their primary world, Aelur Prime. Most of the crew perished in the impact. Mira and I survived, along with 2 others. Alara leaned forward, her hands trembling. What happened to her? Thorne's gaze distant. The Aelurians saved us, but at a cost. They integrated our minds with their collective, a symbiosis. Mira, she adapted quickly. Too quickly. She became one with them, her body enhanced with their tech, her consciousness expanded. She explored their archives, learned their history of eon-spanning wars and peace. But she missed home. Missed you. He paused, sipping water from a tube. We spent what felt like years there. Time dilation warped our perception. Mira convinced the Aelurians to help us return. They repaired the ship, opened a stable wormhole. But only I made it back in human form. Mira, she insisted on coming, but the integration changed her. She's here, Alara. In the quarantine wing. But she's more than human now. Dr. Kaur activated a holofeed. In a sealed chamber, a figure floated in zero-G suspension. It was Mira, or what looked like her. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent veins, eyes glowing with an inner light. Tendrils of energy extended from her fingertips, interfacing with the room's systems. Alara gasped, tears streaming. "That's my daughter?" Thorne nodded. "She's back. But the stars have claimed a piece of her." Chapter 3: Reunion and Revelation. The quarantine protocols dragged on for days. Alara paced the observation deck, watching Mira through reinforced glass. Her daughter, no, this being, moved with unnatural grace, manipulating holographic interfaces without touch. When finally cleared for contact, Alara entered the chamber, her suit hissing with sterilized air. "Mira," she whispered. The figure turned, and for a moment, Alara saw the girl she remembered, the mischievous smile, the freckles across her nose. But then the glow intensified, and Myra's voice echoed not just in air, but in Alara's mind. "Mom, I've missed you." They embraced, Alera's arms wrapping around a form that felt solid yet electric, like hugging a storm cloud. Mira explained everything. The crash, the Aelurian's mercy, the merging of minds. They gave me knowledge, Mom. Secrets of the universe. Faster than light travel. Cures for diseases. Ways to harness stars. But as they talked, cracks appeared. Myra's memories were fragmented. She recalled childhood picnics, but forgot Harlan's face. Her emotions swung wildly, one moment joyful, the next detached, as if viewing humanity from afar. Thorn joined them later, his presence a grounding force. He revealed more. The Aelurians weren't benevolent saviors. They were refugees from a galactic war, their collective hunted by a mechanized empire called the Void Collective, machines that devoured worlds. Mira carries their archive in her mind, he said, a seed of their civilization. If the collective finds us, Earth is doomed. Alera's world spun. Her daughter wasn't just changed. She was a beacon, a potential harbinger of destruction. Back on Earth, news of the return leaked. Protests erupted in New Horizon, xenophobes decrying alien contamination, while scientists clamored for access to Myra's knowledge. The government placed Alera under protective custody, assigning her a detail of augmented guards. In secret meetings, Mira shared glimpses of Aelurian tech. She taught Alera to interface with neural links, allowing mother and daughter to share thoughts. It was intimate, overwhelming. Alera felt Myra's wonder at the stars, but also a growing alienation from human frailty. One night, as they linked, Mira confessed, "I didn't come back alone, Mom. Part of the collective followed us through the wormhole. It's here in the system, probing our defenses." Chapter 4: Shadows in the System. The first signs were subtle. Glitches in the global net, drones veering off course, whispers in the data streams. Then, a probe was detected near Saturn, a sleek, obsidian craft emitting signals that fried satellites. The Orion Institute became ground zero for the crisis. Dr. Core assembled a team, including Thorn, to decode Myra's archive. Alera, now an unwilling participant, used her neural expertise to bridge human and Aelurian tech. Myra's changes deepened. Her body began to phase, flickering in and out of visibility. "The integration is unstable," she admitted. "I'm losing my humanity." Alera refused to accept it. She delved into simulations, mapping Myra's altered brainwaves, searching for a way to reverse the process. In one session, she uncovered a hidden memory. During the merge, Mira had volunteered to host the Aelurian Queen's essence, a failsafe against extinction. "You're not just my daughter," Alera realized. "You're their last hope." As the Void Collective's forces amassed, scout ships harassing mining outposts on the asteroids, humanity mobilized. Fleets launched from Earth and Mars, armed with outdated lasers and kinetic weapons. Thorn, haunted by survivor's guilt, confided in Alera. "I should have died there. Mira saved me, pulled me back from the collective. But I feel it still, the pull of the stars." Together, they planned a counterstrike. Mira designed a weapon, a neural disruptor that could sever the collective's hive mind. But it required a sacrifice, the host's life force. Chapter 5: The Battle for the Veil. The climax unfolded in the shadow of Jupiter, where the wormhole lingered like a scar in space. The human fleet, bolstered by Aelurian schematics, engaged the collective's vanguard, swarms of drone ships, angular and merciless. Alera was aboard the refitted Ether's Reach, now commanded by Thorn. Mira, her form stabilized temporarily by Alera's neural patches, stood at the bridge, her energy tendrils interfacing with the ship's systems. The battle was chaos, explosions blooming in the vacuum, ships disintegrating in silent fire. The collective's leader, a colossal Nexus vessel, broadcast psi attacks, inducing hallucinations in the crew. In the midst, Mira activated the disruptor. "I love you, Mom," she thought, her essence flooding the weapon. The pulse rippled out, shattering the collective's links. Drones went inert, the Nexus imploded. But the cost? Myra's body dissolved into light, her consciousness scattering. Alara screamed, collapsing as the link severed. Chapter 6: Echoes of the Stars. Weeks later, back on Earth, Alara stood at Harlan's plaque, now joined by Myra's. The world hailed her as a hero, but victory tasted like ash. Thorn visited, offering solace. "She's not gone. The Aelurians taught us that consciousness endures." In her apartment, Alara activated a final gift from Mira, a neural echo, a simulation of her daughter. "Hi, Mom," the hollow said. "The stars aren't thieves. They're family." Alara smiled through tears. Her daughter was lost to the stars, but a human, Thorn, perhaps, or herself, had brought back the essence of her. Chapter 7: The Long Dawn. Alara refused to let the quiet win. The apartment felt larger now, emptier. The starfield projection still rotated slowly on the ceiling, but she no longer stared at it with dread. Instead, she studied it, mapping constellations she had once avoided, tracing routes that might have carried Mira across the galaxy. The neural echo Mira had left behind was always on, a soft blue glow in the corner of the living room. It wasn't her daughter, not really, just a sophisticated reconstruction built from shared memories, Aelurian data patterns, and every scrap of conversation Alara had recorded over the years. But it was enough to talk to. Enough to argue with. Enough to love. "Mom, you're pacing again," the echo said one morning, its voice warm but slightly too perfect, lacking the tiny catch Mira used to have when she was tired. "You haven't slept in 32 hours. "I'm fine," Alara lied, pouring synthetic coffee that tasted like regret. "Just thinking." "About the message?" Alara froze. She hadn't told the echo about the transmission that arrived at 3:17 that morning, encrypted, military-grade, routed through 3 different relay stations before landing on her private comm the sender, Elias Thorne. Subject line: "She's still out there." The message itself was short. "Alara, I lied. Not about everything, but about the end." Mira didn't dissolve completely. Her pattern scattered, yes, but the disruptor didn't erase her. It fragmented her across the local net during the pulse. Parts of her consciousness are still anchored in the orbital station's quantum core, in the ether's reach's black box, even in fragments of the collective's dying network. I've been tracking residual signatures for 6 months. There's coherence. There's memory. There's her. I'm going back out. One last run. If you want to say goodbye properly or bring her home, meet me at Lagrange. 4 dock in 7 days. No pressure. No obligation. Just truth. Elias. Alara read it again. And again. Her hand shook so badly, she spilled the coffee across the counter. The echo tilted its head, mimicking Myra's old curious expression. "You're crying." "I'm angry," Alara corrected. "He let me grieve for nothing." "He thought she was gone," the echo said gently. "Most people would have. He stayed because he couldn't accept it either." Alara looked at the glowing figure. "Would you want to come back?" "If you could." The echo flickered, almost imperceptibly. "I'm not her. I can only guess what she would say. But if I were Mira, I'd want my mom to stop punishing herself. And I'd want to see Earth again, even if it was just once." That was the moment Alara decided. She packed light. 1 duffel with clothes, Harlan's old pilot patch, Myra's childhood star map necklace, and the portable neural interface she'd built to stabilize Illyrian patterns. She left a message for Dr. Core saying only, taking personal leave. Don't look for me. Then she booked the first available shuttle to L4. Chapter 8. The Anchor Point. Lagrange 4 was a graveyard of half-built habitats and decommissioned freighters, a skeletal ring around Earth's fourth Lagrangian point, where gravity balanced just enough to let objects drift without falling in or flying away. The Ether's Reach rebuilt, refitted, scarred, waited in the outer berth, lights dimmed like a sleeping predator. Thorne met her at the airlock. He looked older than 5 months should allow, deeper lines around the eyes, gray threading through what remained of his hair. But his posture was straighter than she remembered, less haunted. You came, he said simply. You didn't give me a choice, she replied. They didn't embrace. They weren't friends. They were two people bound by the same impossible wound. Inside the ship, the bridge smelled of ozone and recycled air. Thorne pulled up a holographic web of data, faint golden threads weaving between orbital platforms, old satellites, even fragments of debris from the battle near Jupiter. Each thread pulsed with a signature that matched Myra's post-integration neural pattern. She's everywhere and nowhere, he explained. When the disruptor fired, it didn't just break the collective, it refracted her consciousness like light through a prism. Some fragments anchored in human systems. Others drifted in the void. But they're trying to reassemble. They're calling. Alara touched one of the threads. A soft chime rang in her mind. Myra's voice, distant, layered, like wind through crystal. Mom? Tears came instantly. She's alive. Part of her is, Thorne corrected. The rest is scattered poetry. We can collect the fragments. We can give her a chance to become whole again. But it means going back through the residual wormhole scar near Jupiter. And if we do that, there's no guarantee we come back. Alara looked at him. You're asking me to risk my life for a maybe. I'm asking you to decide whether half a miracle is enough. He met her gaze without flinching. I already lost her once. I won't do it again unless you tell me to stop. She thought of the echo waiting back home. Thought of the empty plaque next to Harlan's. Thought of every night she'd whispered Myra's name to the stars and received only silence. Then we go, she said. Chapter 9. The Harvest. The journey to Jupiter took 11 days. They spoke little. Thorne piloted. Alara monitored the collection array, a lattice of quantum traps designed to capture and stabilize the scattered fragments. Every few hours a new thread would appear on the web, faint and flickering. Each capture felt like catching a sigh. On the 6th day, a strong signal bloomed near Ganymede. Alara linked directly. Mom, it's dark here. Cold. But I remember the smell of rain on the balcony. I remember you singing when you thought I was asleep. Alara wept openly. I'm coming, baby. Hold on. By the time they reached the wormhole scar, a bruised violet tear hanging in space, the collection array held 73% coherence. Not enough for a body. Not enough for speech beyond fragments. But enough for hope. Thorne slowed the ship. This is it. The scar is unstable. We go in. We might not come out the same way. Alara placed her hand over his on the console. Then we don't come out the same. He nodded once. They crossed the threshold. Inside was not darkness, but light, endless, pearlescent, like swimming through mother of pearl. Shapes moved at the edge of vision. Half-formed Illyrians, ghosts of the collective's victims, echoes of every mind that had ever touched this place. And at the center, Mira. Not a body. Not yet. A luminous silhouette made of golden threads, arms outstretched, face turned toward them. Her voice arrived not through air, but through every cell of Alara's skin. I waited. Alara unstrapped and floated forward, reaching. I'm here. The threads wrapped around her, not binding, but embracing. Memories flooded in. Myra's first steps, her graduation, her goodbye before launch, the crash, the Aelurian song, the long loneliness in the collective, the final desperate choice to carry their archives so humanity could live. You never stopped looking, Mira whispered. That's why I could keep calling. Thorne's voice cracked over the calm. We've got 94%. One more pass. But the scar was collapsing. Alarm screamed. Gravity waves tore at the hull. Alara looked at the silhouette. Come home. I can't be what I was. Then be what you are now, Alara said. And let me love that version too. A final pulse. The threads surged forward, pouring into the collection array, into the ship's core, into Alara herself. Pain bright and blinding, then warmth. The scar snapped shut behind them. Chapter 10. After the Stars. They emerged near Callisto, battered, leaking atmosphere, but alive. The array held. Not a perfect reconstruction. Not the 21-year-old girl who'd waved from the shuttle viewport. This Mira was older in soul, quieter, her skin faintly luminous even in normal light. Her eyes carried galaxies. But when she opened them and saw Alara, she smiled the same crooked smile. Hi, Mom. Alara pulled her into a hug so fierce the medical alarms blared. Thorne watched from the doorway, tears on his face for the first time since the return. They limped home over 3 weeks, repairing systems, talking, laughing, crying. Mira learned to dampen her glow so she wouldn't blind people in normal rooms. She learned to eat again slowly. Her body still remembered hunger as a concept more than a need. She told stories of places no human had seen. And when they finally docked at New Horizons' orbital ring, the world was waiting. Not with parades. Not with protests. With quiet awe. Dr. Core met them at the gangway, eyes shining. You brought her back. I brought us both back, Alara said. Mira stepped forward, barefoot, wearing one of Alara's old jackets because nothing else fit yet. She looked at the crowd, scientists, families, reporters, strangers who had followed the story like scripture, and raised her hand. I'm not here to save you, she said, voice carrying without amplification. I'm here to live. With my mother. With all of you. The stars aren't the end. They're just farther away neighbors. Someone started clapping. Then more. Then cheers. Alara slipped her hand into Myra's. The bioluminescence pulsed softly in time with their heartbeats. Later in the apartment, Mira stood at the window overlooking the city lights. The starfield projection was off for once. Real stars shone through the glass. You kept my room exactly the same, she said. I never stopped hoping. Mira turned, eyes bright. Not with alien light, but with something older and simpler. Thank you for waiting. Alara pulled her close. Thank you for coming back. Outside, Earth turned. Ships rose and fell. The galaxy spun on. And somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, a mother and daughter finally stood on the same piece of ground. Together, changed, but no longer lost. The final homecoming. Alara refused to believe the silence. Even after the pulse had torn through the Jupiter shadow, even after Myra's luminous form had shattered into golden motes that drifted like fireflies caught in zero gravity, Alara kept the neural link open. She refused to let the connection die. Night after night in the cramped medical bay of the battered ether's reach, she sat with electrodes pressed to her temples, whispering into the static. Come back, baby. Just one more step. Thorne tried to stop her at first. You'll burn your brain out, he said, voice rough with exhaustion. She's gone, Elara. We won, but we paid. She's not gone, Elara answered every time, eyes never leaving the flickering coherence meter. She's just spread thin. And she was right. On the 19th day after the battle, when the ship was limping back toward Earth under emergency thrust, a single clean signal punched through the noise. Not fragmented. Not echo. Whole.
Mom.
Elara's hand slammed the comm panel so hard it cracked. Thorn was at her side in seconds. The hollow display bloomed with a soft golden signature, strong, steady, anchored somewhere inside the ship's auxiliary quantum core. She used the array, Thorn breathed. She pulled herself together inside our own systems. They ran to the core chamber. The space was small, lined with coolant pipes and pulsing server racks. In the center, suspended in the faint magnetic field of the containment ring, a shape was forming. At first it was only light, shimmering threads weaving themselves into limbs, torso, head. Then color bled in, warm brown skin, dark hair falling past shoulders, the familiar scattering of freckles across the nose. When the eyes opened, they were Myra's eyes, deep hazel, human again, though a faint silver ring still circled each iris like a memory of stars. She floated there, naked except for the faint glow that clung to her like afterimage. Her mouth moved, but no sound came at first. Then the ship's speakers crackled and her real voice, hoarse, trembling, hers, filled the chamber. Mom, it was so dark out there. Elara didn't wait for the containment field to drop. She hit the emergency release. Alarms wailed. Thorn swore and caught her arm, but she shook him off and stepped forward anyway. Mira fell into her arms, solid, warm, heavy with sudden gravity. Elara held her so tightly she felt ribs press against ribs, felt the frantic thud of a heart that had not beaten in months. Mira buried her face in her mother's shoulder and sobbed like a child waking from nightmare. I thought I lost you forever, Elara whispered over and over. I thought I lost you. You didn't, Mira managed between gasps. I kept hearing you. Every time you said my name, I followed the sound. Thorn stood back, arms folded, eyes wet. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The look on his face said he had carried guilt heavier than any wreckage, and now, maybe, he could finally set it down. They spent the next 6 days in transit doing nothing but being together. Mira relearned how to walk without floating. She laughed when her legs buckled the first time, and Elara caught her. She cried when she tasted real food again, plain protein paste from the galley, and said it was the best thing she'd ever eaten. She traced the scars on the ship's bulkheads with her fingertips and told them stories of places no telescope had ever seen. Oceans of liquid methane that sang, forests of crystal that grew in patterns of thought, skies with 3 suns that never set. But she also spoke of the quiet terror of being part of something so vast she almost forgot her own name. She spoke of the moment she chose to carry the Aelurian archive, knowing it might erase her. She spoke of the final instant when she pushed every scrap of herself into the disruptor beam, not to die, but to break the cage around her mother's world. I didn't want to leave you, she said one night, curled against Elara's side on the narrow bunk. But I thought if I stayed connected to them, the collective would find Earth. I thought letting go was the only way to keep you safe. Elara stroked her hair, real hair now, not light made solid. You kept us all safe. And then you came back anyway. Because you kept calling, Mira whispered, even when everyone else stopped believing. When the ether's reach finally slotted into Earth orbit, the planet below looked impossibly blue after so much black. News feeds were already exploding. Leaked footage of the battle, speculation about the returned hybrid, demands for quarantine, demands for celebration. None of it mattered. They requested a private landing. A small pad on the outskirts of New Horizon, away from cameras and crowds. Just family, a few trusted Institute personnel, and one tired ship that had flown farther than any human vessel was ever meant to go. When the ramp lowered, Mira stepped out first, barefoot, wearing one of Alara's spare jumpsuits that was still too big. The evening wind caught her hair. She stopped at the bottom of the ramp, looked at the city lights in the distance, at the real sky above them, and took the deepest breath of her life. Then she turned and held out her hand. Alara took it. Together they walked onto Earth's soil, soft, damp from recent rain, smelling of salt and green things. Mira knelt, pressed her palm to the ground, and laughed, a bright, startled sound. "It remembers me," she said. "The planet remembers." Behind them, Thorn remained at the top of the ramp, watching. Alara looked back once. He gave a small nod, the kind that says go live the rest of it. Later, in the quiet apartment that had waited 5 years and change for this moment, Mira stood at the window. The starfield projection was off. Outside, real stars glittered above the city glow. Alara came up beside her. "Do you miss it?" she asked softly. "The vastness." Mira thought for a long moment. "I miss the silence sometimes," she admitted, "but I don't miss being alone in it." She turned, wrapped her arms around her mother's waist, rested her forehead against Alara's. "I'd rather be here."
Loud.
Messy. Human. With you. Alara kissed the top of her head. "Then stay." "I will," Mira promised. "For as long as there's breath in me." Outside, Earth kept turning. Ships rose and fell. The galaxy spun on, indifferent and beautiful. But inside that small apartment, 2 hearts beat in time again. A mother had lost her daughter to the stars, and a daughter had crossed every impossible distance to come home.